Today is August 9th, 2020. I'm doing a little video on about quantum mechanic physics, and the evolution of humanity. And when we talk about the evolution of humanity, we have to talk about molecules and atoms and photons and neutrons and electrons, and how these elements combine to make a substance like a rock, like water, like plants, human beings, which a human being is more complicated when we talk about a living thing, because a living thing is not only based on one element but multiple elements, as we need iron, calcium, magnesium, cyan, we need sodium. We have so many elements in our body which we do not even understand what is the function. And not only that, but we have to understand about what is mutation, because when we get into mutation, it is something very important for us to understand. As I was looking at a video about the evolution about the world, or the human, or everything existence as Earth, or better said, because it was uranium, a molecule of uranium, which was in a geyser, which had the first components to be together to make that substance, or that particle. And that was the beginning of life, or the beginning of a substance, living form. And because we have to look at, when we talk about how the earth was made, the nova stars, and how they are combined to make a bust explosion, which it has a metaphor or stages of to produce a environment or a planet, better said, for you to understand. So basically, what I am trying to let you understand is that the beginning of everything was molecules, were atoms. And when we talk about telepathy, as I believe that telepathy is photons interacting with the photons around us, and that is how we get information, because the photons that are around us also are able to go to the past, the present, and the future. If you look at quantum mechanics and the problem of quantum, because when you see a beam of light will go through two different holes, or two different lights, instead of just one. But what is amazing is, and the problem about quantum is, that when it is being observed, then it is no longer going to two holes, but it will choose one hole. So, and this goes to my earlier research, where I have said about viruses and bacteria, and all these living molecules. In order for them to feed, or in order for them to move, or like a plant, there has to be conscience. And when we being conscious, there has to be a thinking process. It might not be as a thinking process as we think, and maybe a lower primitive thinking, as even less primitive, or less educated than animals. So we're really, for us, it would be as they're a dumb stage, but in reality, in their world, they are able to communicate and interact. As you look at female plants and male plants, as there are so many signs of that there's two and not just one. And there are sterile plants, as also there are sterile women and men, and it all has a resemblance of everything of the mechanism, or I call it a circle, that there's a connection between the earth, human beings, plants, and everything, and even I believe might be the universe also. It's the same connection. And if we look at history, and we look at history going, and you'll see it repeating itself. The only thing is that there are certain things that changed, like phones, like cars, like the airplane, the agriculture, which was the first starting revolution towards the evolution of human way of thinking, because we was able to store our food, and also to be able to trade, and we learned how to make different combinations of way of thinking, as being toward money wise, because we well, the money was the food. Like if you had shoes, then and I had wheat, and you would want some wheat, so and I would need some shoes, and vice versa. So that's what it was, until money came, which was the gold or silver or a coin, and which was produced so that you could buy these things instead of trading, which would make it easier for people to buy. And this is something very important. What I mean, this is something by very important: conscience. When I mean by conscience, the psychologist Robert Gelpskin said, and some other psychologists said, that we are trapped in the matrix. And I thought about that. What do they mean by trapped by the matrix? And if we look at history, before ancient time, the Egyptian times, the emperor's times, humans, or better said, poor people or normal people or common people, were not able to read or write. The only people who were able to read and write were the kings and their priests and their noble jesters. And so the question is, where does it leave us, and where does the change begin? Because if we look at it right now, we're not being taught how to think when we go to school. We're being taught to learn a job. And a lot of people are waking up. But these people are waking up to what? Is it just another illusion of someone else trying to overthrow a government so that they can be in charge and they put their rules? And if you look at it, rules have existed since early ages. And why do rules exist? Why aren't we able to have conscience and aren't able to think and respect each other, so that we can live in harmony, so that we can live in happiness? Because if you take the violence and you take the evil of racism, and racism is not just whites, it's not just blacks, it's also Muslims, it's also Jews, it's also Christians, it's also Spanish. So you'll find even Indian American natives, you'll find, or Chinese, you'll find that racism exists. And why do we exist, this racism? It is because we're scared of different. We're scared of being conquered, even though that most of us do not want to admit it. We have that fear of what is the unknown, because we do not have an explanation. And this is where a lot of things like religion come in, because religion gives us an understanding, or gives us a guide of thinking, because if you believe in something, then you'll be like, oh, okay, I understand, and life becomes easier instead of going through that rabbit hole. And what I mean by that rabbit hole, by searching that truth and the complex of the truth is so hard, because just for an example, our brain has billions of neurons. Our brain has more neurons than the galaxies, the Milky Way, or the universe, in the system that we live in. And the capability of the human body and the human mind is past our understanding. So, and this is something that we're not being taught. We're not being taught to think. We're not being taught to make better decisions at school. And I'm a very Freuster person. I believe in Freuster, which your environment makes who you are. And I see it right here in Pennsylvania, where I'm at. And I see a lot of different cultures. And I can even see it in myself, as I was raised in Maryland, in Montgomery County, and Washington, D.C. And I was raised in a large community of blacks. And my way of language was black, and it led to something else when I went to El Salvador. When I went to El Salvador, I found my roots, and they told me that I have to follow my roots, and they implemented me towards being a gangster at the age of 12, because I have no knowledge of history and the understanding of consciousness, or understanding of better decision making. So this happens not only to me, but happens to everyone, as white, black, and every other race, because they try to put pride. And pride is something very dangerous, because pride makes you stay away from people, makes you hate people, brings a lot of negative things. And this is why humbleness is very important. And you'll find humbleness not only in Christian, not only in Jews, not only in Muslims, but also Buddhists and other religion, except satanic and the violent religions, because you do have to remember that there are other religions, not only those basic religions, but there was so many religions, as Aztecs had their own beliefs, Mayans had own beliefs, and so on, the Incas, and I can keep going on, the Pharaohs, and so many different other tribes, or different other nations, cultures, that they had their own beliefs. So basically, that is one step of consciousness. And what I want, and the reason I want you to understand, is I want you to research one, that is the first thing, research about quantum mechanics, quantum physics, so that you can understand the motion of a photons, and the motion of the photons, and the rules of the photons, and the hypothesis, because it is only a hypothesis what they have, and the tests. But the question is that when it is being observed, the photon does not go to two different holes, which is the same beam, but just one. So how does it choose? Does it have a conscious, or does it have a mind? That is one aspect that I want you to do, and do your research, as you have seen my videos, so that you can understand better on telepathy. And this is my book is going to have the full explanation of everything. But not only that, but I want you to understand also of you and your consciousness, and who you are, and what do you want. Because you have to understand, right? Your brain is divided into multiple sections. You have your anger, you have your fear, you have your love, you have your thinking, you have your imagination, you have your hippocampus, your lupus systems, and all you have your reptilian, your instincts, and all these parts are trying to control you. So how do you know who you are if you do not control your own body parts? There's no way. And if you look at history and you look at psychology, in 1956, a research in the United States, in New Jersey, in a theater, they put buy Coca-Cola on a theater so that the people could look at it. And when they looked at it, the people went, 50% went up the production of Coca-Cola, the sales. So that just shows you about subliminal message, and not only shows you about subliminal message, but can you trust the government? Can you trust these people who are giving you this information, and how much is the information true and fact? And the only way that you'll be able to find is if you go down that rabbit hole. And what I mean by go down that rabbit hole, that you search, that you do your own experiments. And this is something beautiful because you are learning, you are having the experience. It is your experience, and you are going to be able to capture the knowledge for the fact of your own paradigm or your own point of view. And the only way as you do that is through education and through knowledge and through your own experiences. This is something so important which most people do not understand. And if we look at history, there's always talking about awakening, they're talking about enlightenment. There's always someone, because every billion years, someone like Jesus Christ, like Buddha, like Prophet Muhammad, someone important who changes the world, to changes how to the world's evolution or production, or how they think is changed. And why is it that it takes such a long time? And what is the difference that me and you cannot comprehend and be able to be one of those billions? Why is there so many common people and less richer people, or less intelligent or geniuses that can change the world? So this is something that you have to understand. And we are not being guided correctly. And why I mean by not being guided correctly, because even in Jewish, even in Muslim, even in Christian, even in Buddhist, there are people who are trying to take advantage, and there is a system that's trying to take advantage of the uneducated people. And the only defense that we have is education ourselves. And if we look at history, these people are the ones who always tell, "Oh, we're not equal. Oh, we don't have the rich, or the rich steal from us." And instead of making us aware of education and how to reach that richness, how to reach that happiness, of how to better our life, but instead they teach us that we're not being equal, and we get angry because we do not know nothing else better but violence. And if you look at history, that is the sad part about humankind, or about the poor people, because the only way poor people can express themselves is through violence. What a shame. But this is something that is beautiful about my ability. Why? Because everyone listening, everyone has the opportunity, and they can never say, "I never heard someone tell me that I need to educate myself." And if you look through past, you will hear people, you will hear your mother saying, "Get your education, go to school." So this is something, I hope that has waken you up. I hope that you understand the message that I'm trying to get through to you of how important education is. Because education is the only way we are going to be able to fight. And a lot of people are have wrong thoughts because they think that through violence, they'll be able to solve. And you will not be able to solve nothing through violence. And you can look at history, what violence has done, but only caused poverty. People have suffered, and even people have died. People have been crippled. That's all you get from violence. There's nothing good from violence. The only good thing that brings violence is sales of guns, manufacture of nuclear weapons, manufacture of airplanes, jet planes, fighter planes, tanks, new weapons, which is only to kill people. And what good is that? Why can't we find a solution to bring peace instead, or find a way to respect each other so we can live in harmony? And why isn't the government spending money on that, on education, on helping rehabilitation? Instead, they are looking for how to make guns, how to make nuclear weapons, how to bring new destruction, a new world order. And the unfortunately is that the people, or the poor people, the common people, have no knowledge of what really is going on. Because if you look at what there is rituals of satanic, not only satanic but evil people, of different multitudes of evilness, which child with women have been violated, which they have been tormented for years and years. And us, like males, we want to protect ours. We want to protect what is ours, but we don't realize that as an individual, there is so much limit that our capability of protection can be. And there's sometimes things that will happen which we will not be able to protect. And the only way that we will be able to protect is by having a community. Because when we have a community, it's going to be like this wall right here, which is going to be solid. And it's not just one, but it's multiples. And it can be big as the Great Wall of China, or it can be a small brick, which a brick can be kicked by one person and thrown away. So it's very important for you to understand that part. And not only that, but you have to understand the evolution of what it is about photons. Because I believe seriously that we are able to go to past, present, and future. I believe in reincarnation, and this is what history teaches us. I hope that next time I make the video is going to be more explanation, as I'm going to have finished the book on Supernormal by Dean Radin, which gives a little bit explanation on quantum, and what my paradigm is towards photons. But I do have some things that I do not agree with him. But anyways, that is a totally different topic. I just want to push you to learning about this, because if you do not learn, there's so much information being thrown at us with YouTube, because there are people who are trying to make money, and so much, and the government is trying to conceal the truth. And I mean, it's really crazy, because if you look at it, right, if you think movies have some real truth to what they say or what they act. It might not everything be true, but some are true. And if you look at some pictures, there are pictures that tell us about things that are happening right now. If you look at the Quran talks about things that technology has just found right now. If you look at the Bible, you'll find things that talk about that are happening. If you look at the Book of the Dead, the monk, the uh, Tibetan monk. I'm so sorry. The Tibetan monks, and it'll give you a pathway or an explanation of hospitality, which hospitality is a new way of nursing when someone is dying and having the alert of before the person is dying. So, what I'm trying to say is so much information from the ancient that explains things that which we are right now just learning. And so it is very hard to understand how is this possible as precognition, that is being people who are able to know the future. And that's why I say that photons go through the past, the present, and future. And that is how we get our information. But I still need to do more research, and I need to do my experiments so that I can prove and give you facts. For I do not want to give you non-fact fiction. I want to give you nothing but the truth. Have a wonderful day.